There is no way to explain this as acceptable. Joe Biden was an unmitigated mess. Axios has gotten and now released excerpts of the audio tape from special counsel Hur's interview with President Biden. Remember, Robert Hur's initial report about the former president was that he was an elderly man with a poor memory. Oh, my goodness. The audio is so much worse than that description.
And so in these photos, when the file cabinet was here at Chambers Road, what kinds of things were in it?
Everything, I believe, everything from, empty files to I just have files piled up if I needed a file, to, I don't know what else was in there. I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't.
Okay. Do you have any idea where this material would have been before it got moved into the garage?
Well, if it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president?
2017.
So I was vice president. So it must have come from vice president stuff. That's all I can think of.
Well, this is adding even more fodder to accusations of a wide-ranging cover-up involving Biden's inner circle, Democrats, and the liberal media. Add in now the release of several of those explosive books on the Biden White House, and it's a firestorm that won't go away.
We've dealt with aging relatives. It's hard to convince somebody to give up their car keys.
It's not just Republicans deflecting. This guy was the president of the United States for 4 years and thought he could run and be president for 4 more years. There appears, to me at least, to have been an active cover-up from people close to Joe Biden.
There are people who knew and said nothing. And that is a crime against this republic. And I think the Democrats are going to pay for a long time for being a part of what is now being revealed to be a massive cover-up.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board says Democrats will face the consequences. Quote, the cover-up of Mr. Biden's mental decline will go down as one of the great scandals of modern politics, end quote. But South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn is still defending his friend Joe Biden.
I talked to him on the telephone very often, and I never saw anything that I thought was outside of the ordinary.
Do you think that Joe Biden really would have been able to perform as president all the way through January 2029 when he would be 86?
Yes, I thought that back then. I still think that.
He still thinks it. Tudor Dixon, former candidate for Michigan governor, and Mark Pryor, former Arkansas senator. Great to see you both. Tudor, when you hear him say that he still thinks that Jim Clyburn is a big name in the Democratic Party, always has been able to deliver a lot of the black vote for early primaries for Democrats as congressman, what's your reaction to him?
Well, Harris, I think it's interesting that you point out that he's a big name for Democrats because he is also 84 years old and he's defending a longtime friend. I honestly think that people are going to set this aside as just someone who has not been willing to let go of the past. The evidence is out there. The disturbing thing is that we all saw the evidence. We all talked about it. Harris, how many times did you talk about it? And now Jake Tapper's going to get rich off of talking about what he hid before. I think that's the real crime here.
Senator Pryor, this seems to be a big roadblock in your party right now. Because this isn't just a couple of people talking about what they thought they may have seen and his acuity level or whatever. This is on tape. We can all hear this.
Yeah, let me just say a few things about that. First, I'd say step back, big picture. You know, this is an illustration in my mind that we should always be praying for our president, right? And not just the president himself and his health and his mental health and everything else, his decision-making, but also for the people around him. And I think that we ought to be, and look, y'all know I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan, but I try to pray for President Trump every chance I get. I'm not cheering for failure here for President Trump, just like I wasn't for Joe Biden or for George W. Bush or whoever else, I was having to serve with. But anyway, I just think that everybody needs to, keep that in perspective, and that we should really lift up these men.
I hear what you're saying, but I think what you're trying to do is paint him as someone who was maybe picked on. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is a man who couldn't have a conversation and wasn't sentient enough to face trial on a classified documents case that had a lot of evidence against him in it, yet he was controlling the nuclear policy of this country. There's no way that you can be okay with that and think that that compares somehow with anything else that we're experiencing. Senator.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make excuses for him at
You can't.
all. And this tape that you showed, and you guys were kind enough to send me the 4.5 minutes, the full tape of this part of the interview. The truth is, they took the interview over 2 days. I haven't seen the whole tape. The part that you sent me was obviously there were some rough spots in it, clearly.
So you think that we have the ability to do what with the original tapes coming out of a federal investigation? I don't know what you're accusing, but we sent you what we have. I'm confused by that, but let's get to this. Back in February of last year, then Vice President Kamala Harris was going after Robert Hur's report. Now, this is rich. Watch.
What I saw of that report last night, I believe is, as a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. So the way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated, gratuitous.
Robert Hur was trying to tell us the truth. He could have gone further. Tudor.
I mean, this should have been disqualifying for her back then, but to think that the Democrat Party is still talking about her as a front runner for 2028, this is a complete crisis for them. Every single one of them came out and said ridiculous things like that while we stood by and watched the decline. We watched him. He couldn't debate, but it went beyond that. He never did an interview. He couldn't actually sit down with people. Remember when he walked off in the middle of the interview, right off of the TV stage? I mean, it was obvious to all of us, and every one of these people covered it up. From Gavin Newsom to Kamala Harris, every one of them is disqualified. They are a party in crisis. They have nobody, and praying for them? Come on, give me a break. This is total evil. These are people who wanted control. They wanted power, and this is not a time for prayer. This is a time for investigation. This is not a poor man being picked on, as you said, Harris. These are people who deceived the entire country. They took control and they seized control.
Senator, we will give you last word next time. We have to scoot, but I thank you both. Great conversation. The Outnumbered is next.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.